I'm Andy Panko, owner of Tenon Financial. Welcome to Retirement Planning Demystified. This video will discuss what you need to know about RMDs, or Required Minimum Distributions. Specifically, I'll be discussing how RMDs impact your own retirement accounts, not accounts you inherit from someone else. Inherited accounts have a unique set of RMD rules, which I'll discuss in a separate video. But before we start, remember this video is only general explanations and education. It's not specific tax, legal, or investment advice. Before considering acting on anything you see in this video, first consult with your tax, legal, or investment advisor. Do you have a traditional retirement savings account like an IRA, 401k, or 403b? The benefit to these accounts is tax deferral, which means you don't pay tax on the money you put in. The money sits in there and grows without you having to pay any tax along the way, but you will have to pay tax on any withdrawals you eventually make. While it's nice to have a lower tax bill today by making contributions to accounts like these, they don't actually get rid of taxes. Instead, they simply kick the tax can down the road to be dealt with later. In other words, they defer taxes. Here's something else to think about. The money you see in your IRA or 401k isn't entirely yours. It's actually a partnership between you and Uncle Sam, because the government will eventually want its tax on the money you take out. Now, with that said, the government doesn't allow you to indefinitely delay taking withdrawals from these accounts. Under current laws, they require you to start taking withdrawals in the year you turn 72. These mandatory withdrawals are called Required Minimum Distributions, or RMDs. You can always take more than your required minimum distribution amount. In fact, the government would love it if you did. But even if you don't need the money, you still need to take out at least the amount of your RMD each year. Required minimum distributions apply to all forms of tax-deferred accounts. While there are some nuances to the RMD rules for each account type, they all typically require you to start distributions starting in the year you turn 72 and every year thereafter. A common exception is in 401k plans. If you are over 72 and still working, you can often delay RMDs from that 401k until you retire. Roth IRAs are not subject to RMDs. That's because you already paid tax when you put the money in. Now, by design, distributions from Roth accounts are usually not taxable, so the government has no reason or incentive to force you to take money out. Traditional IRAs are subject to RMDs. Thankfully, though, you are allowed to aggregate RMDs across all your IRAs and take the aggregated RMD out of just one of the accounts. Let's say, for example, you have 3 different IRAs, and each has an RMD of $100 this year. You can either take $100 out of each of them, or you can simply take $300 out of one of them. That one single distribution collectively satisfies the RMD requirements across all 3 accounts. Unfortunately, this aggregation concept does not allow across employer plans like 401ks and 403bs. For example, if you have 3 different 401ks from 3 different old jobs, you will need to take a separate RMD from each 401k. You can't treat them like IRAs and take just one big RMD from one of them. Also, you unfortunately cannot aggregate across employer plans and IRAs. Like if you have one IRA and one 401k and they each have a $100 RMD, you can't simply take a single $200 RMD from one of them. You will need to take $100 from each. So, when do you actually need to start taking RMDs? If you turned 70 and a half before December 31st, 2019, you needed to start your RMDs in 2019. Otherwise, you have to start them in the year you turn 72. This change in the required beginning age was a result of the Secure Act, which became effective on January 1st, 2020. There's a small wrinkle with regard to the first year you have to take an RMD, though. You are allowed to delay your first year's RMD until April 1st of the following year. For example, if you turn 72 in 2020, you're supposed to take your first RMD in 2020, but you have the option to delay it until April 1st, 2021. There's no penalty to delay it, and you don't need to give any special notice to the IRS. You can just simply wait and take it in early 2021. In addition to having to take your first RMD in the year you turn 72, or by the following April 1st, you will also need to take an RMD every year for the rest of your life. Assuming again you turn 72 in 2020, you can either take your first RMD in 2020 or by April 1st of 2021. Then you will need to take your second RMD at some point in 2021 and your third RMD at some point in 2022, and so on. It doesn't matter what day of the year you take your RMD. As an example, if you have an RMD requirement in 2020, you can take it any day from January 1st through December 31st. You can also split it up and take it over multiple days. The important thing is that during the course of the year, you need to take out at least as much as your RMD amount. Now there's one more wrinkle to tell you about. This one is only in regards to RMDs for 2020. Under the coronavirus relief law known as CARES Act, all RMDs are waived for the year. Whether 2020 was supposed to be your first or your 30th year of RMDs, you can simply skip taking it. But as of now, you need to resume taking your regularly scheduled RMDs in 2021. How do you know how much your RMD amount is each year? The easy answer is that in most cases, the custodian who holds your account will notify you each year you have one. And in some cases, they may even have you set up automatic distributions to make sure you take it. Or if you work with a financial advisor, he or she should also notify you and work with you to ensure you take it. If you want to figure out your annual RMDs on your own, you can simply Google RMD calculator and you'll find many easy to use online tools. Most of the big financial custodians have free online calculators. The IRS does as well. But I'll walk through the formula anyway so you can better appreciate what goes into it. The amount of RMD you need to take in a given year is calculated by taking your account balance as of December 31st of the previous year and dividing it by the respective distribution factor for your age in the year of the RMD. The distribution factors are published by the IRS and are readily available on their website. There are two different sets of distribution factors. If you are single or married and your spouse is not more than 10 years younger than you, you will need to use the distribution factors from what's called the Uniform Lifetime Table. If you are married, your spouse is more than 10 years younger than you, and is the sole beneficiary of your account, you will need to use the distribution factors from the Joint Life and Last Survivor Table. Let's walk through an example. Assume you are married and your spouse is not more than 10 years younger than you. That means you'll need to use the distribution factors from the Uniform Lifetime Table. Let's assume you turn 72 in 2021. You will need to take your first RMD at any point in 2021. Technically, you have until April 1st of 2022 to take it, but that doesn't change the math of how much the RMD amount is. You first need to know the account's balance as of December 31st of the previous calendar year. In our case, since 2021 is your RMD year, you need to know the account balance as of December 31st, 2020. We'll assume the account balance is $100,000 as of that date. Next, you need to find your distribution factor from the Uniform Lifetime Table. Find your age along the age column, and then take the corresponding distribution period factor from the next column. In our case, since you're 72, your factor is 25.6. So, take your $100,000 account balance and divide it by your distribution factor of 25.6, and you get your 2021 RMD amount of $3,906.25. Again, you can take that distribution at any point in 2021 or delay it until April 1st, 2022. But keep in mind, you will have another RMD to take in 2022. If you delay your 2021 RMD to the next year, you'll then be taking 2 RMDs in 2022. In doing that, you may be stuffing yourself with a lot of taxable income in that year, so it may be better to not delay the first RMD and instead take it in 2021. Now let's see what your 2022 RMD will be. You first need to know your account balance as of December 31st, 2021. Let's assume that's $95,000. And in 2022, you'll be 73. So your distribution factor for that year will be 24.7. Take your account balance of $95,000, divide it by your distribution factor of 24.7, and you get your 2022 RMD amount of $3,846.15. As you can see, the distribution factors decrease as you get older. This means your RMD as a percentage of your account balance increases each year. For example, in the year you turn 72, your distribution factor of 25.6 equates to a distribution percentage of about 3.9%. In the year you turn 73, it's 4.0%. These percentages increase all the way up until the year you turn 115. At that point and every year thereafter, if you're still alive, your distribution factor will be 1.9, which means your RMD will require you to distribute about 52.6% of your account balance each year. If you're married and your spouse is more than 10 years younger than you and your spouse is your account sole beneficiary, your distribution factors will need to come from the Joint Life and Last Survivor Table instead of the Uniform Lifetime Table. The Joint Life and Last Survivor Table works a little differently because you need to look up 2 different ages, both yours and your spouse's. Find your age along the top of the table, and then go down and find your spouse's age along the side of the table. The distribution factor you use is the one at the intersection of your age and your spouse's age. For example, assume you turn 75 this year and your spouse turns 63. In this case, your distribution factor would be 24.3. Now, other than using a different distribution factor table, the process for determining your RMD is otherwise the same. Take your account balance from December 31st of the previous year and divide it by the relevant distribution factor. It's important you stay on top of taking your RMDs. The government wants their taxes and doesn't play around about it. For every dollar of RMD you're supposed to take but don't, you will have to pay a 50% penalty tax. That's right, 50%. So if you have an RMD of $5,000 this year and forget to take it, you'll have to pay a penalty of $2,500 when you file this year's taxes. Clearly, RMDs need to be taken seriously. Well, that's a wrap for what you need to know about RMDs. Again, keep in mind this video only discusses RMDs from your own accounts. Be sure to check out my other videos for information on RMDs from inherited accounts. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel so you can be the first to know when new videos are posted. And don't forget to subscribe to my monthly newsletter, Retirement Planning Insights, which provides informative retirement planning tips and info. Also, be sure to join my free Facebook group, Taxes and Retirement, where you can get answers to all your retirement-related tax questions. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.